Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. Let's begin with the matter that went into the Supreme Court today and has been held back for about 24 hours. That is the Gyanvapi Scientific Survey. A 30-member team from the Archaeological Survey of India reached the Gyanvapi Mosque in Varanasi to conduct scientific survey with an aim to ascertain whether the mosque had been built over a pre-existing Hindu temple by Aurangzeb. However, the Supreme Court halted the scientific survey for 48 hours, that is 2 days. The survey began somewhere around 7:30 a.m. this morning and it was halted around 11:30 a.m. So for 4 hours, the survey team was in action. The survey now will resume only post 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 26th of July. The Supreme Court said that no excavation or invasive work would be undertaken by the ASI officials on the mosque premises until the 31st of July 2023, as indicated by the ASI itself. The masjid side has been asked to move the Allahabad High Court in the interim by 5 p.m. on the 26th of July, and the Supreme Court also advising the Allahabad High Court to hear the plea if moved by the masjid side before the stay order expires. But as there is no excavation or invasive work to be undertaken, as far as the ASI is concerned, why block a scientific survey which is only GPR, videography, and of course estimations and measurements? We'll debate that in a face-off between Vishnu Jain and Varis Pathan of the AIMIM. But first, let's bring you up to speed on what transpired in court and what exactly is the survey scope. First up, going by this entire face-off that ensued in the top court, the Hindu side said not a brick of the structure will be removed. The masjid sides immediately said, oh my God, excavation will cause irreversible damage. The Hindu side said measurement, radio imagery, mapping is to be done. The masjid side said order is in violation of the earlier Supreme Court order. Hindu side said no excavation or invasive steps to be taken. Masjid side immediately said structure used as a mosque since the 1500s. Hindu side scientific survey will not affect the structure at all. But the counter is, what is the tearing hurry for a survey? Now let's tell you what the Varanasi court order said. Probe the age and nature of the western wall. It also said radar study below the 3 domes at the site. It said radar study beneath of all the cellars. Prepare a list of all the artifacts in the complex. Dating exercise of age and nature of artifacts. Dating study on all pillars to be undertaken. But the order, and I have a copy, I'm just going to take a pause and I'm going to get this out here. And the order also says conduct excavation if required. Everywhere it says conduct excavation only if required. It doesn't say that you have to conduct the excavation. Let me just quickly show you here on all the 12 or 13 points of the order. The court, the Varanasi court, in its order dated the 21st of July 2023, says conduct excavation if required. Conduct excavation if required. It doesn't say that excavation is mandatory, it just says conduct excavation if required. I have other documents too to say why the excavation was ordered by the court in the first place, and all of this has been submitted in court. Now, if the ASI conducts a scientific survey, let's tell you what it implies and how it will help this entire case. It's a big step towards resolution of centuries-old dispute. The scientific study will be on whether or not there is any Hindu character of the site at all. Also, the study may provide scientific backing to arguments that have been made by either side. And the ASI findings will become part of evidence in this entire case. And the study whether Aurangzeb raised a temple to build the mosque or partly raised a temple and built a structure above an existing structure. That will be proven, and it may decide if Places of Worship Act 1991 actually applies to this case or not. Now here's what the videography survey report submitted to the court by Ajay Mishra and team back in May 2022 found. A shivling-like structure in the Wazu Khana, but the Wazu Khana area is not a purview of the Shringar Gauri case. Remains of crimson-coloured idols were seen. Images of deities, swastika and bells were found. Flowery kalash or urns and trishul were found. Lotus symbol was found engraved on stones. 4 remnants of the Aishwarya Mandap were also seen. All of this is chronicled, and I have that order copy also with me. This is the survey report, ladies and gentlemen, and the survey report in my hand is dated 7th of May 2022, 19th of May 2022. That's what this order copy is dated. And the commission karwai dates of 14th May, 15th May and 16th May 2022. And these are the observations vis-a-vis the Shringar Gauri case. Shringar Gauri case. Vis-a-vis the Shringar Gauri case, these are the observations that have been made about the Paschim wall, about the idols that have been seen, and the fact that there are pillars which look older and different from the structure above. More importantly, the mention of the domes is also there. That, ये देखिए, उत्तर दिशा में गुंबद के अंदर घुसकर देखा गया, जिसमें घुसने से कैसे के स्थान के दिशा दक्षिण पश्चिम में है, तो वहां अंदर दूसरी गुंबद की के 8.5 फीट नीचे शंकुकार, दैट मीन्स कोनिकल, शिखर नुमा आकृति मिली, जिसकी ऊंचाई 2.5 फुट तथा व्यास लगभग 18 फुट है. So 2.5 feet tall and 18 feet circumference was seen. This is part of that report, which is more than a year ago. Let's go straight across to Advocate Vishnu Jain, who's been arguing for the Hindu Paksh, and Waris Pathan, spokesperson of the AIMIM. Namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. Waris Pathan, you are a lawyer. You know the legal side very well. Vishnu Jain has been fighting this case, and before him his father has been fighting this case. So there is a certain West in जो आंखों से दिखा है वो वीडियो में कैद है, वो इस रिपोर्ट में है. एक बात मुझे ये बताइए, we'll get to that differently. As a lawyer, sir, you have time to approach the Supreme Court, but you don't have time to approach the High Court. क्या argument है?
Well, Anand, the matter is sub judice. The Supreme Court has taken cognizance of the matter. They have posted it on the 26th till 5, and they have said the lower court's order is stayed and the status quo is to be maintained. The Anjuman committee, they moved the court, they have got a right powers, and the Supreme Court has directed them approach the Honorable High Court, and the Honorable High Court will listen to the arguments. But what we were saying since the beginning is that, and now what I say is that the BJP is trying to polarize the situation prior to the 2024 election. That is very, very clear, because they want to divert the mind of the nation from the basic issues of price rise, unemployment. Now Manipur is there. Modi does not want to answer on that in the parliament. That is why we see what is happening in the parliament. Now, what was the intention of the parliament enacting the Places of Worship Act 1991, Anand? Why do they want to take us to the era of 90s, when we saw Babri Masjid, how it was demolished, the black day in the democracy of the country? And this is what they want to do it now. We have been saying the Places of Worship Act 1919 was enacted with an intention, and the purpose of it was that prior to 15 August 1947, whatever the monuments are, mosques, whatever, they cannot change the structure and the nature and character of that place. So why do they want to have the survey? Earlier also they put the petition before the court asking for a carbon dating of the Shivling, which was not allowed by the court. In fact, the courts have allowed that the people to allowed to pray namaz, and also they have given direction to the district administration to make facilities for Wazu. So where does it stand? Now why do they just want to try and declare another communal flare-up in the country just by going for the ASI survey?
My point is
their intention? What is their intention?
My point is, Waris Pathan,
ASI survey. Why do
who
they
is going? Why should there be why should there be a communal? Why are you repeatedly saying communal flare-up, communal flare-up? कौन करेगा communal flare-up?
They are. ये लोग ही कर रहे हैं, because we saw during the Babri Masjid era.
I am asking you today, sir, who is doing a communal flare-up? Are you saying somebody does not have a right to go to court? You have the right to go to the Supreme Court.
Everybody has a right.
So if they go to a Supreme Court to make a valid argument, I am asking you, if you go to the Supreme Court to make a valid argument and I say, oh, you're pushing for a communal flare-up, you have a right to make an argument which you believe is valid. But that will cause communal flare-up. Communal flare-up argument आप क्यों दे रहे हैं बार-बार? Is it a threat? Is it
go for a survey?
Is it intimidation? What are you saying? Why are you saying communal flare-up? Why do
they want a survey? Why do they want a survey?
They have the right to ask for a, just like you have the right to ask for a stay, sir.
I have a right to rebut.
Please, that's what I'm trying to say. You have the right to rebut. So don't they have the right to make an argument or a case or make a valid point? And they are saying do it scientifically. That's what they are saying. Why are you repeatedly, my question to you, Varis Pathan, why are you repeatedly saying communal flare-up? And the other question, sir, is coming back to the original question. Why did you sidestep this aspect? कि भाई सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आर्ग्यूमेंट करने के लिए आपके पास तैयार करने के लिए टाइम था, पर इलाहाबाद हाईकोर्ट मूव करने के लिए टाइम नहीं था.
So many of the anchors also who were arrested, they moved the Honorable Supreme Court in the midnight and they got released from the Supreme Court. There is we can move the Honorable Supreme Court. They moved, and senior advocate Ahmadi is a senior advocate.
Yeah.
He knows where to move and where not to. And the Supreme Court has said that okay,
correct.
They did not say
but
why
sir,
you came before us. They said
but sir,
it's better
I am asking you a very. I do not know law, sir.
Then come before
I
us.
do not know
So
law. I can only ask a question in my humble, limited common sense, which is also very uncommon these days. Is that, sir, you made the argument made in the Supreme Court was that I didn't have time to go to the High Court. But you had time to go to make the argument in the Supreme Court that I didn't have time to make the argument in the High Court. So, ये थोड़ा मुझे समझ में नहीं आया, sir, आप मुझे समझाइए. That's what I am asking you. Okay, Vishnu Jain, let him come.
It is the prerogative of the Anjuman.
I understand, sir.
Prerogative of the Anjuman committee which moved the Supreme Court against the order passed by the Varanasi
court.
Now
let me ask.
Also knows that yes, they have a right to move. Their petition is not rejected.
No. So those who want to move the Supreme Court and not the High Court have the right to move the Supreme Court. But those who want a scientific solution to a centuries-old argument are going to push a communal flare-up. Okay, Vishnu Jain, please tell me.
1937.
Okay. Now, what is it?
Let me.
Please yield.
Anand, just 10 seconds.
He is not spoken. No.
10 seconds and Vishnu will answer all to my
arguments. All right. Okay.
Anand, in 1937, in Deen Mohammad's case, it is clearly stated after going through the documents and oral submissions made that this property is a waqf property. Now, once it is a waqf, always it is a waqf. They all know the judgment is there on the net. Also, you can read it, Anand. I am not speaking on my own. So why do they want to now create a thing that this belongs to
Religious Character Places of Worship Act 1991? Argument placed in the Supreme Court today and Deen Mohammed case. All three, Vishnu Jain respond.
See, let me just first give a little bit of insight on today's hearing. I must tell you that there was no matter which was listed of a Anjuman Intizamiya before the Supreme Court. What was listed in the mentioning list of the Supreme Court in item number 9 was an SLP which arises from the order of 31st of May of the Allahabad High Court, which in turn had upheld the order of the district judge by which it was held that places of worship act and birth act is not attracted in this case. Now, the fact of the matter is that an oral mentioning was done. And all this which you are reading in the order of the Supreme Court was all oral argument, no affidavit was filed. At 11:15, I was given a copy of some application right in front of Chief Justice Court, which was filed yesterday in the evening. And the due process which is there in the Supreme Court that if you are filing anything in a pending matter, you have to give a copy to the advocate on record of the other side. That was also violated. But be that as it may, my point is this. That in this case, first of all, as Varisji is saying, I must respond to this, that Places of Worship Act is not attracted. Rather, Places of Worship Act has been violated. Because the fact of the matter is that in November 1993, we were worshipping in the premises in question of Ma Shringar Gauri, invisible deities, Lord Hanuman, Lord Ganesh. We were worshipping in the Tehkhana of the cellar. And it is only when the Mulayam Singh Yadav, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh at that point of time, did this barricading and ousted us from possession of this property in violation of the act. So therefore, we have filed a suit before the Civil Court Varanasi saying that look here, we were worshipping in the premises in question, so please allow us our rights to worship. Now we passed the test of 711 from two courts. The District Court Varanasi upheld it in our favor on 12th of September. The Allahabad High Court upheld it in our favor on 31st of May. The scientific survey of Shivlingam was also directed by the Allahabad High Court. The scientific survey has been directed by the Varanasi Court. Now the point is this, that when 711 has been decided and they have filed their written statement, what is the next procedure? The next procedure is, Varis Bhai, that they have to ask for an expert opinion. And the court in its wisdom has applied the powers of section 45, which you may know very nicely. Section 45 of the Indian Evidence Act, where the court has power to seek expert opinion. And this report of the ASI, which has been this commission of the ASI, which is a 30-member team, has been appointed by the court in exercise of its powers under Order 26 Rule 10A, and it was clearly mentioned in the Supreme Court. Second point I want to highlight. The Anjuman Intizamiya made a wrong statement before the Supreme Court without filing any documents that there is excavation going to happen. They did not participate, I must tell you, they did not participate in the commission proceedings today. They boycotted the commission proceedings. But I don't know, they got a dream or some prophecy that excavation is going to happen, and on that basis a statement was made before the Supreme Court in oral mentioning, and it was also and the Supreme Court gave time to the Solicitor General of India to take instructions on that issue. At 11:15 the hearing again happened, and it was mentioned before the Supreme Court that excavation is not going to happen. We are doing measurement, mapping and various other exercises. Let them approach the High Court. But despite that, these orders are there. But be that as it may, the point in issue is this, that this is a temporary arrangement for 2 days. It has been mentioned in the order that there is no opinion on the merits of the case, and we will argue our matter before the Allahabad High Court, and we are hopeful that after 2 days, when the matter is argued and we present ourselves before the Allahabad High Court, again the survey will happen, and then again they will approach the Supreme Court with all the arguments. Because the fact of the matter, Anand, I want to say with greatest sense of responsibility today on your channel is that there are a lot of truths, lot of secrets of Gyanvapi which are behind those sealed walls. There are a lot of secrets which are behind and inside the Gyanvapi complex within the barricading area. And the Anjuman Intizamiya knows very well that this mosque was not built by Aurangzeb on a plain or barren land, and this is a structure of a pre-existing Hindu temple. So they don't want any survey, because the moment ASI is doing this survey and ASI gives this opinion, then they will not be able to prove their case before the district court, before the trial court Varanasi. Therefore, this entire exercise is done. If you remember and recollect, when initially Advocate Commission survey was going to happen, there was a huge dissatisfaction amongst the Anjuman Intizamiya, saying that we will not let the survey happen for a very, very simple reason, Anand, that the Shivlingam was to be found. When we asked that let the Shivlingam or fountain theory be established through scientific method, who came to the Supreme Court? It was the Anjuman Intizamiya who went to the Supreme Court. And let me tell you the irony, Anand. When the matter came to the Supreme Court on 19th of May, it was the last working day of the Supreme Court. They deferred the orders of the High Court. The matter was listed on 11th of May and 11th of July. I'm sorry, the matter was listed on 11th of July. On that day, we had filed our counter affidavit. Anjuman Intizamiya took time of 4 weeks to file the rejoinder affidavit. And now the matter is listed on 29th August. So the moment you get a stay order, then there is no hurry. But when someone is saying that do the survey, then you have all the hurry in the world to approach the Supreme Court, High Court. So these are all delay tactics.
Let Varis
but
Pathan
one day truth will come out.
Let Varis Pathan respond. Yes.
Well, my learned friend Vishnu Jain just now said that the Anjuman Intizamiya committee did not go there today in the morning. Let me tell you, from the news which I am getting it from the media, the Anjuman Intizamiya committee has said that they did not get any notice from the ASI. And in the morning, around 25 to 30 people from the ASI site came there and they started their procedure. And they very well knew that the matter
yesterday evening there
the
was a meeting.
Supreme Court.
Anjuman Intizamiya was present.
Please hear this. Please hear what he's saying.
Allow me.
Sir,
I was listening.
I know Varis Pathan, but
I was listening very patiently to what you were
I
saying.
understand, but allow him this intervention.
Now today,
by request, using legal parlance, limited ones that I know, allow him a 30-second intervention and then you can continue.
I'm just correcting you on facts. Please cross-check, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me. Yesterday night, the members of Anjuman Intizamiya and their lawyers were present before the district administration, and they were duly informed that today in the morning from 7 a.m. this commission is going to start. They were there before the district administration, and they were duly informed.
No notice was given.
Allow me. Notice was given. They were present.
That matter is sub judice. Tomorrow the matter will be taken up before the honorable Supreme Court. So please don't go on with the survey. Kindly wait. But nobody waited. In the morning they came there with their team and they started the survey. So I am asking Anand, what is the
Varis Pathan,
why are you in such a hurry to do this? When your carbon dating application was already rejected by the Honourable Court.
Varis Pathan, please, 1 second, sir. 1 second, sir. 1 second, sir.
It was not rejected.
No, Varis Pathan ji, 1 minute. Let's get a few.
Scientific investigation.
1 second. Let's get a few things in clear. This matter does not relate, what we are discussing now does not relate to what the Muslim Paksh calls the Wazu Khana and the Hindu Paksh believes is a shivling of Adi Vishweshwar. This does not.
It's the other area.
This is the Shringar Gauri area, which is the western wall. And in this case, last evening, I am just saying, Varis Pathan, the Anjum, sir, no, sir, the Anjuman Intizam.
Yes, entire area.
They want to get it done. I'm just, please hear me out, sir. Last evening, like you said, media reports are not reporting right. You are quoting the wrong reports. Last evening, sir, both sides were present and informed that today morning the survey will happen, and they had the notice. This is a confirmation. And you can get, you can please tell, let the Anjuman Intizamiya decide.
I quote the trustee. The trustee of the Anjuman has clearly stated so before the media. Your media was present and I am not there. I was listening to what he said and it is before
the
media.
Sir, the trustee and the Anjuman Intizamiya lawyers were present at the meeting last evening and there is a minute of that meeting, sir. There is a minute and the district administration is witness.
Anand, the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of that. The Supreme Court has very well taken cognizance of that also and they have given a status quo to maintain. The Supreme Court is well aware about the fact
do you know why the Supreme Court has said status quo?
Whatever excavation or whatever.
Have you read the order, sir?
That is why status quo is to be
no, sir. No, sir.
Status quo is to be maintained.
No. Why have they said that? Why have they?
The matter should.
Why have
5 p.m. on 26th of July.
Why have they said it, sir?
26th of July.
Why have they said it, sir?
Vishnu will correct us. He was present in the court.
Sir, why have they said it, sir?
Why have they said it?
Sir, this is what they have said.
Why to move the Honourable High Court and get an order from that to approach the Honourable High Court?
I am reading the order copy from today.
The Honourable High Court and in the meantime status quo.
Okay. I am just mentioning here. The Muslim Paksh said they didn't have time to move the Allahabad High Court. But I am asking you the same question. 4:30 p.m. order is passed. Last evening ASI meeting they are present. This morning they come to the Supreme Court but they don't move the High Court. In the meantime, sir, the Hindu Paksh has filed a caveat in the Allahabad High Court. They filed this caveat on Saturday. They filed a caveat in the Allahabad High Court saying if the Muslim Paksh does move the Allahabad High Court, please hear us before you pass a note. So the Hindu Paksh has the time to file a caveat in the Allahabad High Court, but the Muslim Paksh does not have the time to go to the Allahabad High Court. Sir, the other.
Anand, kindly read what does a caveat means. A caveat means that an ex-party order should not be passed unless we are heard in that. Vishnu Jain is there, he knows that.
Correct.
So he's right, he's passed a caveat.
So
what happens? Let us see. Why are you in a hurry? Let us wait till 26th of July.
You know my question, but you still don't want to give the answer.
There will be a stay on the survey. I am sure the Honourable High Court will intervene and that will be given a stay on the order passed by the lower court.
Okay, now let me ask you this, sir. If there is a dispute, one says it's a masjid, other one says it's a temple and it's a structure built over an existing temple. If the only way to prove it is scientifically, there is no excavation involved. It's just GPR, ground projection radar. If required, there will be excavation for that. You can say they have to come back to the court. This is also being done of a western wall. No, 1 minute. Sir, this is the western wall, Shringar Gauri Shrine, which after the Places of Worship Act 1991 came into place, worship went on till 1993. So the established status of that western wall and Shringar Gauri is that it is Hindu in character, but there Hindus are being stopped. अगर साल में 2 बार कर सकते हैं तो 365 दिन क्यों नहीं? So there are very straightforward questions I can ask without even having any 2 ana of knowledge of legalese. I am just asking you, Places of Worship Act argument you gave, 1991. The worship was happening till 1993. There is photographic, videographic and witness evidence. After 1991 till 1993 for 2 years worship happened on a regular basis. Then you have stopped. So whose rights are being curbed?
Kindly, Anand, if you just kindly read Places of Worship Act 1991, you will kindly come to know what does it mean. No character or structure of the place of worship can be changed.
Correct.
Or altered.
I agree, sir.
Because 15 August
I agree, you are
1947,
right.
So why you want to now?
I agree, you are right. After Places of Worship Act 1991, till 1993, there was worship going on. Because the religious character of that Shringar Gauri shrine is Hindu.
2 days. 2 days.
Huh.
Only for, but then the High Court has also allowed the Muslims to go and pray there.
Sir, so
and
why?
they have already directed the district
आप एक बात
administration
बताओ,
to
आपको
see to
कभी मैं
ensure
कैसे,
that the
can I
Wazufana is right there.
should I tell you
अरे
that
वज़ूखाना
आप
is-
मस्जिद में जाओ पर साल में 2 दिन
What
ही
about
जाओ
the
नमाज अदा
1937
करने के
Din
लिए?
Mohammed case? नहीं, नहीं,
या
what
आप हिंदुओं को कह रहे हो कि आप मंदिर में जाओ लेकिन साल में सिर्फ 2 दिन. So what is the religious character of that place then? Sir, if you are telling somebody to go and do puja twice in a year, what is the religious character of that place? Are you trying to say that you are forming a rule that for 2 years 2 days in a year, the religious character of that wall is Hindu, for the rest of the 363 days, it is not Hindu? क्या कह रहे हैं सर आप?
No, but the Muslims were offering namaz there every day.
अरे
The
sir,
namaz
not
was
at
going
the
on.
western wall.
Namaz was going on, and as per the Muslim, they say it is as per the Hindus, they say that it
Sir,
is a shivling. As per the Muslim community,
the argument is
trust,
not about
they
the
say
shivling
it
at
is
all. Vishnu Jain.
So what is
Vishnu
that?
Jain, what do, I'm just
It
asking.
started. The arguments are.
No,
are
sir,
at
the
start,
argument is about
but
the
why do you
Shringar
want to
Gauri shrine
restore it
today.
to the Worship Act?
The argument is about the
argument
Shringar Gauri
here is
shrine,
why
the
they
western
want to
wall,
get it
and
done
what was
now?
noted in the
Why
survey's
are they
report
so much
that
hurry?
there is a conical structure. There is a conical structure under what looks like a gumbaz on the outside,
no, that
and
is to
those
be
walls
decided.
look older. That is the
decided by
argument.
the courts.
My question to you on,
That is-
sir, आप जान
is
के भी
to be
अनजान बन
decided
रहे
by
हैं.
the
This is
courts.
the ability as a lawyer which I don't have
नहीं,
as
नहीं, मैं
a
जान के
common
आप लोग
man.
अनजान
Vishnu
बन रहे
Jain,
because you
Vishnu
were-
Jain. So, is
No,
there any rule,
Anand,
sir?
I ask you a simple
Vishnu Jain, is there
question,
any
Anand.
rule, sir? Final
What
word.
was
I'm
the
just asking you,
intention of
Vishnu
Places
Jain.
of Worship Act 1991?
So after Places of Worship Act 1991, does that act anywhere, Vishnu
question,
Jain,
what was the
say
intention?
कि साल के 2 दिन आप मंदिर हिंदू है, बाकी सॉरी वो दीवार हिंदू है, बाकी 363 दिन नहीं है? Does the Places of Worship
Anand,
Act say that?
I
Yes,
just say that this entire exercise of conducting the survey was to ascertain that what is the religious character of the place in question. Suppose Varis Bhai is saying that this is a mosque, and I am saying that this is a temple. How will it be ascertained? Can it be ascertained by oral evidence, or can a
Why
party
you
say
want to
that no, it will
ascertain?
not be investigated,
Then what
no,
is
it
the
will
use
not
of
be
the
dwelled
Places of
into?
Worship Act which is the
No,
endorsement
see,
of the
as
President of India?
Just
Then
I'm
what
telling,
is the
I'm
use
telling
of
what
such
is the
act laws being
Sir,
passed in the
let
Parliament?
me answer
what
the
are
question.
the uses of the laws being passed in the Parliament and shut down the Parliament? Why do you need
If
the
you are so
Parliament
much,
then?
if
you
you
don't
are
want
so
to
much
accept
grateful to the
Parliament,
Parliament,
No,
then
now
you
now
must
Varis
also
Pathan,
accept
Varis
the
Pathan is
citizenship
using the
amendment
Why you want
Varis
You should have
Pathan,
also
Varis
accepted
Pathan,
to see
the,
Varis
bylaws.
Pathan is using
So
the
far that you are very
age-old
much,
skill that he
you
has
are
developed
so
and
nice, you are
perfected,
so nice
that
as a
when you
citizen
cannot
that you
convince,
are accepting
then
all the
totally
acts of the
derail.
Parliament. But anyways, the fact of the matter is that this is an entire exercise to ascertain the religious character, and after the evidence is led by the Muslim side as well as by the Hindu side,
Right.
then the court will say that look here, the religious character as per the evidence of this place is of a Hindu temple or is of a mosque. But before that ascertainment, Varis Bhai is saying कि भाई हम तो कोई ascertainment
Then
कराएंगे
why
ही
was
नहीं,
your carbon
हमने
dating
क्या दिया
application
मस्जिद
rejected
है
by the court?
तो है.
Sir,
Why
scientific
was
survey
your
has
carbon
not been
dating
rejected.
application rejected by the
Scientific
honorable court?
survey has not been rejected. Scientific survey includes one of the aspects is
dating,
carbon
why?
dating,
Because-
not any of the others. Ground projection radar is allowed.
Yes, that is what I
Ground
want to
projection
say.
radar is allowed.
One is the
Videography is
aspect of
allowed.
it is
Testing of
carbon
the
dating,
walls and
sir.
the age of the walls is allowed. And any residue, biological residue that is found like milk, flowers, prasad, which is present in the soil or around that structure, can be without damaging the structure extracted and also dated and tested. Sir, all of this is allowed. So, sir, आप जान के भी अनजान बन रहे. But anyway, great debating with you. Always having always
I
a
would
pleasure
like
having
just to
having you on the show. Vishnu Jain
Anand.
and Varis Pathan. I say thank you very much. We're going to wind up quickly, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, because we have the minister who's now been sacked in the Rajasthan government, who was literally bullied, beaten up and thrown out of the Rajasthan assembly. This new front against Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot, he's the one who's opened. We're hoping that we'll have Rajendra Gudha joining us. Ashok Gehlot once again facing revolt. This time, his erstwhile confidant, Rajendra Gudha, who's been sacked as minister for not towing the party line. Today during the assembly session, Gudha flashed a red diary, Lal Kitab, that he alleges contains incriminating details about Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot. What's in the red diary that has irked the Congress so much? Well, he's with us. Let's go and ask him itself. राजेंद्र गुड़ा जी नमस्ते। CNN न्यूज 18 और द राइट स्टैंड से बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आज सुबह आप जब विधानसभा पहुंचे तब आपके मन में ऐसा क्यों आया कि आप वो लाल कलर की डायरी लेकर जाएंगे और स्पीकर के सामने उसे टेबल करेंगे, सबमिट करना चाहते थे आप?
स्पीकर साहब के सामने टेबल करना चाह रहा था मैं उसको, और स्पीकर साहब ने उसको टेबल नहीं करने दिया। और उसके बीच में कांग्रेस के सारे मंत्रियों ने मेरे ऊपर झपट कर वो मेरे से छीनने की कोशिश की। छीना झपटी में मैं गिर गया। वो सारे लोग 20-30 जितने भी लोग थे वो सारे मेरे पे ऊपर गिर गए वो डायरी निकालने के लिए, और वो डायरी वो छीन के ले गए।
पर ये डायरी आपके पास कब से है?
देखिए ये 2000
जी
2020 से है ना, 20 में जब सरकार पर संकट आया था उस टाइम में ये कोई एक इनकम टैक्स की रेड हुई थी धर्मेंद्र जी राठौड़ के सिविल लाइंस में आवास पर। तो मुख्यमंत्री जी ने मुझे भेजा था वहां, और उन्होंने कहा किसी भी कंडीशन में डायरी निकाल के ला गुड़ा। तो मैं गया था निकालने के लिए, और वहाँ लाठी चार्ज भी हुआ था। सीआरपीएफ के जवानों से कुछ लोगों के चोटें भी आई थी। उसमें एक दो मंत्री मेरे साथ और भी थे, एक आधा। और वो फिर हम डायरी लेके आए थे। कुछ अवशेष उसके चले गए, कुछ छीन लिए, कुछ जल गए, कुछ हैं।
आपके साथ और कोई मंत्री थे? 2020 में आपने कहा हमें और कुछ और मंत्री गए थे, कौन कौन थे वो?
अभी जो रेवेन्यू मिनिस्टर रामलाल जी हैं वो साथ थे। एक वो धीरज गुजर वो भी था।
तो आप तब से ये डायरी आपके पास ही रही है जो घर के अंदर घुस के आपने उठाई थी? आपने कहा छत लांग के गए आप।
डायरी के 2-3 टुकड़े हो गए इसके, कोई कहां चला गया, कोई कहां चला गया। आज एक टुकड़ा मैं हाउस के अंदर टेबल करना चाह रहा था उसका।
पर ऐसा क्या हुआ कि 20-30 लोग आप पर गिर पड़े, वहां छीना झपटी हुई?
ये तो उनसे पूछो क्यों डर रहे हैं। क्यों तो मुख्यमंत्री जी ने वो डायरी वहां से निकलवाई थी। क्यों वो डायरी निकलवाने के बाद वो डायरी अब आज वो सारे मेरे से छीन रहे थे, और यही बातें थी।
ये सब छीना झपटी में स्पीकर ने आपकी मदद नहीं की? हमने तो ये तस्वीरें देखी, मार्शल आपको धक्का दे रहे थे।
स्पीकर साहब ने तो क्या, मार्शल तो बाद में धक्का दिया, पहले तो इन मंत्रियों ने पटक लिया था मुझे। सारे मंत्री और सारे विधायक आ गए थे एक साथ।
पर आपकी मदद नहीं की स्पीकर साहब ने?
स्पीकर साहब ने तो क्या मदद की, उन्होंने तो फिर बाद में उनसे छुटवा के मार्शलों से पटकवा दिया बाद में, और क्या की, और विधानसभा से निलंबित कर दिया। ये मदद की है।
पर आपके मन में आज ऐसा क्यों आया कि आप ये डायरी के कंटेंट्स को जग जाहिर करें, सबको बता दें? आपने देखा है डायरी में उसमें है क्या?
देखिए, जिस सरकार को जिस आदमी को 2 बार मुख्यमंत्री बनाने में हमने विधायक दिए, एक नहीं, 2 नहीं, 5-5, 6 विधायक दिए, 6 विधायक 2 बार, जिसके कहने से हमने 6 बार राज्यसभा का वोट किया। राष्ट्रपति को उनके कहने से 2 बार राष्ट्रपति को वोट किया। सरकार की संकट में उनकी मदद की, संकट मोचन बन के रहे। आज वो लोग यदि इस तरीके से करते हैं तो एक दिन राजेंद्र गुड्डा सबसे बढ़िया, मेरे बेटे के जन्मदिन पे मुख्यमंत्री गए थे मेरे गांव, यहाँ से 150 किलोमीटर हेलीकॉप्टर लेके गए थे
जी,
और वहां कह के आए थे गुड्डा की वजह से मैं मुख्यमंत्री हूं। और आज गुड्डा को पटक रहे हैं, बर्खास्त कर रहे हैं, पार्टी विधानसभा से सस्पेंड कर रहे हैं, पार्टी से निष्कासित कर रहे हैं। एक साथ क्या हो गया? ये डायरी तो है।
पर वही तो मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ, ऐसा क्या हो गया कि एक व्यक्ति, आप कहते हैं कि उसने कहा गुड्डा जा डायरी लेके आ, अब आपको पार्टी से निकाल दिया, मंत्री पद से हटा दिया, विधानसभा से धक्के मरवा दिए। ऐसा क्या हो गया राजेंद्र गुड़ा जी?
अब क्या किया जा सकता है, तो आप उनसे पूछो।
नहीं, पर आपने भी तो उनके खिलाफ बयान दिए हैं।
मुख्यमंत्री जी ने मेरे खिलाफ एक मुकदमा लगाया, झूठा मुकदमा, आज से लगभग 4 महीने पहले, 5 महीने पहले मेरे खिलाफ। और एक महिला मेरे पास आई थी और उसकी 2 बेटियों की शादी थी, उसके पास पैसे नहीं थे, किसी बदमाश आदमी ने उसके पैसे रोक लिए थे और वो महिला आत्महत्या करने की, सुसाइड करने की स्थिति में थी। वो कह रही थी मेरी बच्ची की शादी के 10 दिन बच्चे हैं और मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है, कैसे मैं शादी करूं। और मैंने मेरी जेब से उसको 3,84,000 रुपये दिए थे और उसको, उस आदमी को मैंने कहा भले आदमी इसके पैसे दे दे, क्यों परेशान कर रहा है। इस मामले में मुख्यमंत्री जी ने अपने मंत्री के खिलाफ अपहरण का मुकदमा लगाया था और मुझे उसमें भी प्रेशर में लेके कि जेल में डाल देंगे, ये कर देंगे, वो प्रेशराइज करने की कोशिश उस टाइम से भी चल रही, उससे पहले से भी चल रही थी।
पर क्यों चल रही थी ये प्रेशराइज करने की तरीका? और ये डायरी जो इसका एक टुकड़ा आपके पास था वो तो आपसे छीन लिया गया, तो साक्ष्य कहाँ गए? आपके पास हैं एविडेंस?
वो तो सबको पता है, विधानसभा में तो, विधानसभा के अंदर वो लोग मेरे पर भेड़िए की तरह टूट पड़े थे, सारे के सारे मंत्री। और वो मेरे से उस डायरी ऐसे लेते कि वो डायरी यदि उनके हाथ में नहीं आई तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा।
पर ये डायरी छीनी किसने? वो उनके पास अब भी है या उसको फाड़ दिया गया है?
अब पता नहीं, वो जो लोगों के जो लेके गए हैं वो ओरिजिनल डायरी के, ओरिजिनल डायरी का पार्ट था, ओरिजिनल हैंडराइटिंग थी उसमें।
यानी आपने डायरी पढ़ी है, उसमें क्या लिखा है थोड़ा हमें भी बताइए।
देखिए उसमें कुछ अच्छा तो नहीं है इनके लिए, उसमें अच्छा होता तो ये उसको उजागर करते, उसको क्यों छिपा रहे हैं ये, तो वो तो इनके लिए तो खराब ही है।
इनके लिए खराब है या बीजेपी के लिए भी खराब है? कहा जा रहा है कुछ लीडर्स को खरीदने की कोशिश, वो भी वहां पर लिखित है उसमें।
पता नहीं, लेकिन उसमें काफी कुछ है उसके अंदर। ये धौलपुर की विधायक शोभा रानी को बीजेपी ने सस्पेंड कर ही रखा है ना।
तो उससे जुड़ा हुआ कुछ है उसमें?
100% ही है।
मुख्यमंत्री जी के खिलाफ क्या है?
मुख्यमंत्री जी ने मंगवाई थी वो डायरी, उनके पूछो उनसे उनके पास क्या है।
पर मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूं क्योंकि आपने पढ़ा है, डायरी आपने पढ़ी है, और आप इतने साल क्यों चुप रहे?
तो मुझे तो कह देंगे मैं इस पार्टी से मिला हुआ हूँ, उस पार्टी से मिला हूँ। खुद से पूछो ना। कल तक तो आप कहते थे राजेंद्र गुड्डा ने आपकी सरकार बचाई है। मेरे 50,000 लोगों के प्रेजेंट में सीएम साहब बोल के हैं राजेंद्र गुड्डा की वजह से मुख्यमंत्री हूँ। राजेंद्र गुड्डा के आज क्या हो गया?
पर आप भी तो 3 साल से चुप रहे हैं, अब आप क्या करेंगे? डायरी भी छिन गई आपसे।
मैं 3 साल चुप नहीं था। अब मेरे बारे में जानकारी करना, मैं तो हाउस में करप्शन पर पहले भी बोला हूँ और मैं चुप रहता तो मेरे मुकदमे भी नहीं लगते। मैंने तो कर्नाटक सरकार से ज्यादा भ्रष्टाचार होने की बात सचिन पायलट साहब की मीटिंग में भी कही है। मैंने तो काफी कुछ कहा है।
आप सचिन पायलट जी से राब्ता करेंगे? आप चाहेंगे वो आपको सपोर्ट करें या फिर आप पार्टी छोड़ने की सोच रहे हैं?
देखिए, न लेफ्ट में देखता हूं न राइट में देखता हूं। मेरे जो लोग हैं, मेरे विधानसभा के मेरे सारे दोस्त हैं और मेरे क्षेत्र के लोग हैं, उन्हीं के बीच में जीता हूं, उन्हीं के लिए जीता हूं, उन्हीं के लिए मरता हूं। वही मेरी ताकत है।
आप चाहते हैं सचिन पायलट आपका समर्थन करें? वो आज तक चुप हैं।
नहीं, मुझे राजेंद्र गुड्डा किसी की मदद के लिए मोहताज नहीं है।
तो आपका अगला कदम क्या होगा? आप क्या करेंगे?
आप देखना आगे क्या होता है। आज से 1,50,000 लोगों की भीड़ आएगी, उसके अंदर लोगों से पूछूंगा, वो लोग कहेंगे क्या करना, वो कहेंगे जो करूंगा।
ये मीटिंग कब होगी? कब बुला रहे हैं आप ये मीटिंग?
बहुत जल्दी, 10 दिन 5 दिन के अंदर।
और वहां आप एविडेंस जग जाहिर करेंगे, सबके सामने लाएंगे?
मेरे लोगों के बीच में जाऊंगा। वही मेरी पार्टी है, वही परिवार है, वही मेरे लिए सब कुछ है। उनके बीच में बैठ के वो जो कहेंगे वो करूंगा। उनसे सारी बातें डिस्कस करूंगा कि घर बैठना है, लड़ाई लड़नी है, क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना।
राजेंद्र गुड़ा जी, हमसे बात करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Namaste. Thank you so much. We're going to take a very short break, ladies and gentlemen. We train the spotlight towards the United Kingdom, where in a massive crackdown, Islamist preacher Anjem Chaudhary, who's been hooked in the past, has been charged yet again. Stay with us.
Brought to you.
Ananya, clearly the Muslim side is not very happy with Varanasi court's order. They have reached the apex court also. What do we know about that? Also, could you tell us the major key takeaways from the past surveys on the same complex?
Well, definitely, Sakshi, the matter is before the topmost court of the country, and urgent mentioning would be made, as we have been told by the Muslim side with regards to the orders that have been passed by, in fact, the Varanasi court directing Archaeological Survey of India survey at this particular site, except for the Vazu area, which has been sealed by the topmost court of the country by its earlier orders. Now, what is very important to note is that they have also sought a particular direction that all of the suits that are pertaining to the Gyanvapi case and this whole disputed site should be stayed until the Supreme Court actually give its final verdict. So whether or not that would be allowed is something that is a matter of time. But as you asked me, the second part of your question, what are the key takeaways of the previous surveys? Now, in the previous survey, the Advocate Commissioner's survey, the videography was done of the Wazu Khana area, where what the Hindu side claims it to be a shivling, while the Muslim side says that it's a fountain that has been found there. But at the same point of time, we have to understand the demography of that particular whole structure, the Gyanvapi site, includes various areas, which includes a central dome. There are three basic domes. The Hindu side claims that on the central dome, under beneath that, there is a Tehkhana, where in fact there would be two more shivlings, and in fact the original shivling of the Adi Visheshwar temple that would be gained back is what has been claimed by the Hindu side. Apart from that, what has also been stated is that on the northern and the southern side of it, the Tehkhanas are another Tehkhanas are there, and in fact under that also we might see that the Hindu relics are found. Under the central dome, there is a hollow sound that comes, which is basically the Hindu side claims is there has been some kind of artificial construction that has been made in order to hide the actual structure of that central dome, and to say that there was a Hindu site that was existing there. Apart from that, the western wall, which is one of the key important aspects of this particular survey, is that that wall is engraved with Hindu relics. It has signs of swastik and various other Hindu relics that are there. Also, that the pillars that are there at the Gyanvapi site stand on, in fact these pillars are of the Hindu temple which Aurangzeb had raised, and then a mosque was built, is what has been claimed by in fact the Hindu side. Now what are the dating techniques and what are the techniques that would be used by the Archaeological Survey of India to actually conduct these survey? Two major techniques would be used by in fact the Archaeological Survey of India. One is the GPR, that is ground penetrating radar. Now what ground penetrating radar is, that it is a machine consisting of two parts. One is a transmitter and one is a receiver. Now the transmitter is placed in order to send electromagnetic waves down, in fact down to the ground, beneath the ground, in fact to see as to whether something is beneath that particular ground, and if at all there is some kind of a structure or some kind of a artifact that is buried under the ground, that wave would hit it and would come back to the receiver, which would show that there is something, and then excavation can actually take place. And if at all something is found, then a dating exercise is carried out in order to know as to which period does this particular relic or particular the point in contention comes from. It would also be carried out on the pillars and the central dome of in fact this particular site. So how will the archaeology, and today number one, the day one of this particular exercise, we'll see that markings would be done by the ASI in order to where to place the GPR machines, what techniques to be used on what site is. The first day would go in actually analyzing.
Ananya, I'll have to interrupt you over there because we have some major breaking news coming in on the same story. Now, this is the recent update on the survey that is currently underway at Gyanvapi complex. 4 teams have been formed from the members of the ASI survey team. all the teams are doing survey work at different locations. This is what we are learning, and this is happening inside the Gyanvapi campus as well. Means one team is working on the western wall and the other team is working under the tomb. So this is the recent update we have about that survey which is currently underway. We have News 18's Amit Singh joining me live on the broadcast.
सर्वे किया जा रहा है, लगातार सर्वे किया जा रहा है ताकि जल्द से जल्द इस सर्वे को कंप्लीट करना है, क्योंकि 4 अगस्त को सर्वे रिपोर्ट कोर्ट में दायर करना है। हम लगातार अपने दर्शकों को तस्वीरें भी दिखा रहे हैं, अंदर की अपडेट भी लगातार दे रहा है कि सबसे पहले साफ सफाई किया गया, साफ सफाई के बाद वीडियोग्राफी हुई, वीडियोग्राफी के बाद अब जो सर्वे की जो प्रक्रिया है, जो इंची टेप से नापना, वीडियोग्राफी करना और तमाम जो साइंटिफिक तरीके से किस तरीके से जो उम्र है, जो कितने साल का ये बिल्डिंग है, कितने साल की पश्चिमी दीवार है, कितने साल का गुंबज है, उस बारे में पता लगाना। तो अब एएसआई की टीम लगातार काम कर रही है।
Muslim side has already moved to the Supreme Court. They have knocked the apex court's gate today. The matter is going to be heard on the same as well. So the Muslim side is clearly not very happy with Varanasi court's order and allowing them for the ASI's survey today. We have some reactions coming in from the Muslim side. Let's listen in.
इमाम ख़तीब शाही जामा मस्जिद ज्ञानवापी बनारस व जनरल सेक्रेटरी अंजुम इंतज़ामिया मसाजिद बनारस।
आज सर्वे हो रहा है, उसको लेके
हमारी प्रतिक्रिया ये है कि हम लोगों ने कल डीएम साहब और कमिश्नर साहब, पुलिस कमिश्नर साहब के आवाज़ पे मीटिंग हुई थी, डीएम साहब भी वहाँ मौजूद थे। तो हम लोगों ने उनसे कहा कि भाई ये जो सर्वे होने जा रहा है उसकी हमें एएसआई द्वारा कोई सूचना नहीं मिली है।
Back on the right stand with news of crackdown on terror and terror influencers. Anjem Chaudhary, a radical Islamist preacher with dual British and Pakistani nationality, has been charged with 3 terror offences. Anjem Chaudhary has been charged with membership of a proscribed banned organisation, addressing meetings to encourage support for a proscribed organisation and directing a terrorist organisation, and these under different sections of UK's Terrorism Act 2000. We have Charlotte Littlewood, research fellow at the Henry Jackson Society. But first, just quickly going across to my colleague and also our editor for Europe, and Sanjay Suri. Sanjay, can you take us through the case details? Wasn't he behind bars in 2016 for his affiliations with the Islamic State and encouraging British nationals to go and serve or join the Islamic State?
Yes, he was convicted in 2016 and sentenced to 5.5 years imprisonment. He was released about halfway through later in 2018. But his campaign, as he sees it, has continued. He is believed and is alleged to have continued to preach for recruitment and for support for terrorist groups and for terrorist acts. And some of these under the name of Islamic Thinker Society, which the prosecution said is just simply another name for the Al-Muhajiram group. This is a group that has been active for a very long time, and I myself have attended rallies that this group has organized at Trafalgar Square, and at that time I recall that there was a call made by the leaders of this group along with the other group Hizb ut-Tahrir for the late Queen to come to Trafalgar Square and to convert to Islam. It was also his campaign and has continued to be the campaign of Anjem Chaudhary that Buckingham Palace should be converted into a mosque, and he has been radicalizing and he has been recruiting members to this group as alleged by the prosecution with a view to supporting acts of terror.
Well, Sanjay Suri, thank you for that update. Just quickly going across to Charlotte. Charlotte, thank you for your patience, but quite a long rope that the UK system has given to elements like Anjem Chaudhary.
I think with Anjem Chaudhary in particular, his legal background was one which kept him just one step outside of the law the whole time, and there was great difficulty in finding a means to have him arrested and charged. So although he was only released in 2018, it doesn't surprise me that he is now arrested and charged again. He did confess to the press only last year that he was having meetings with former members of Al Muhajirun, the organisation that he helped found and led for many years, which is proscribed. So it is no surprise now that he has been arrested for being part of a prescribed organisation.
Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Fellow, Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, also with us this evening. Thank you for your time, Abhijit. But is this a trend that we see in every nation, be it India or the United Kingdom, that the wrongdoers know how to work the system or subvert the system?
I can't hear you. Could you speak up a bit?
Can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. So is this something which is a malaise that plagues our justice system, be it in India or the United Kingdom or anywhere, that those who know how to work the system, use it to subvert the system?
You nailed it on the head, Anand, because looking at the charges now, I don't think they're going to stick particularly long. I mean, they may be able to keep him in jail for a few months, but not much longer. See, he knows this very well. Anjem Chaudhary is a lawyer. He has significant practice in the law as well. And he knows exactly how to exploit it. Remember, this arrest actually stems from where he himself admitted on a TV program, or to a reporter, I think, that he had been in touch with members of Al Muhajirun and things like that. Now, I think this is just one of those arrests that's being carried out, at least from the initial information available, that's being carried out to show that, well, we're doing something. The problem is, I don't think, given the state of, personal freedoms either in India or America or in Britain, these charges are going to stick. If they stick, the jail term might not actually be that long.
Charlotte, your thoughts, because you've done a comprehensive study of, across schools. And you've also been tracking these kind of elements now, be it across multiple communities with multiple backgrounds. But is there a way to crack this, or have they already figured out how to subvert the system?
So I do agree that he has been very clever in avoiding just crossing the threshold of committing an offence. However, I do slightly disagree with the previous speaker, because I do think that the UK government is very proactive in finding ways in which to keep him behind bars. He is considered the gateway to terror in the UK. He is connected to the majority of Islamist extremist offences in the UK, and connected to groups that have radicalised those across Europe to ISIS. At least 200 to 300 of those that joined ISIS have been connected to, through connecting groups, the Al Muhajirun network. So there is very much an active want to keep him behind bars, especially as we're seeing this year 100 plus TACT offences, terrorist offenders, being released from prison. So there's a real concern in the UK, the future risk of terror attacks and the risk going up. So I think there's a real effort to keep him behind bars. I think it's, as you have said, the fact that he knows how to play the system that is managing to keep him outside of bars.
See, because 2016, he comes out by about 2019 or mid-2018, 2019. Again, for 4 years, he's been out. Now he's going to go back in. Imagine the damage that he could have done. And there is no way to assess this. This is a real issue, Charlotte, before I bring back Abhijit. How is the United States, UK government, beg your pardon, going to crack down on this? Because there are elements who are radical. There are elements who are going to use his preachings to their advantage. And they are going to be within the UK society. How will you weed them out? Is there a method?
I think it's about prescription. So prescribing Al Muhajirun as a start is the reason why he's potentially the reason why he'll be able to go back in. I'm making an assumption, maybe an assumption too far, that this is Al Muhajirun that is the prescribed organisation that he is seen to belong to. But prescribing organisations is key. I've just made a recommendation in my most recent report to prescribe Tariq Libayk. Perhaps we should reconsider the prescription of Hizb ut-Tahrir. It is banned in other countries like Germany, but prescription really helps us allow to catch a number of ills: fundraising, membership, organisations that are linked to. So I think prescription probably is the first step I would advise.
But has prescription helped? Does it really help, Abhijit Iyer Mitra? Look at the Peace Foundation that was started by Zakir Naik. or even the PFI, or closer home, let's take these examples. Are they still not propagating their thought processes? He's sitting in Malaysia or somewhere else and it's via social media. You can crack down on certain links, but there are mirrors. It's all there in the dark net. SDPI, the political outfit of the PFI, is active. So all those members automatically become members of SDPI and they continue to proliferate.
Absolutely, Anand. But see, every little bit helps, and proscribing does help. Because remember, China keeps vetoing every time we want to get somebody declared a terrorist or a terrorist organization. China keeps vetoing it. So even though most of the countries would have prescribed a certain terrorist organizations, you'll always find these one or two countries that absolutely will not. This man's terrorist organization, remember, at least the one he's accused of being mentoring or whatever, also had a British-born Hindu man, Siddhartha Dar, who went and became an executioner for ISIS. He's very good at radicalization, and like Charlotte said, I do welcome the fact that the British government clearly wants to put this guy in jail. There is a determination to put this guy in jail. The issue, of course, is that this fellow is one of those people who will make, the sun shine even in rain. Outside, he's going to attract more recruits. Inside jail, he will radicalize them even more. I mean, once you're in jail, is there a limit on what you can say? And there you already have a sort of all the friends you make, all your neighbors are going to be hardened criminals where you're going to radicalize them even more. So we need to be thankful. I mean, there's nothing much you can do. This is the problem of being societies that play by the law, that play by the book, which do try very hard to get people like him, and you can only get him up to a certain point. So we do need to be thankful that he's in jail for 3 years, maybe, possibly, if at all. But again, what do you do when this guy comes out, and what do you do with this guy in jail specifically?
Look, can you hold him in isolation? Because then suddenly we tend to think about human rights and values only for prisoners. But what about the rights that they are violating of society, of so many human beings who they are radicalizing when they are outside or in jail? Charlotte, grooming gangs. There are political entities who are trying to give them cover fire, and appeasement goes a big way because they look at them as potential vote banks. So how is the UK going to counter this? Because this is something which is happening in jails even in India, where terrorists or you put radical elements behind bars and they go further radicalize other elements and they form a network and they operate out of jails.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of two issues there with the grooming gangs and votes and the radicalisation in prisons. But really interestingly, there have been two recent reports on radicalisation in prisons. Most recently, Colin Bloom's Faith report that showed that there was a convert or get hit approach in which people are joining Islamist gangs in prisons because they're afraid of being attacked. And this is very concerning. There's obviously also evidence of al-Muhajirun having impact on prisons from the outside and making contact. This is before it was prescribed, making contact with prisoners. About 150 Islamist extremists in prison were contacted by al-Muhajirun. So there is a real concern about the radicalization in prisons, and that is, again, as you just said, that is about putting super high risk like Anjem Chaudhary into isolation, but also it's an issue of prison guard to inmate ratio. We just have too many inmates to prison guards in prisons, and the prisons are being taken over and run by the gangs rather than by the guards, and that is a real issue.
So what's the counter? Where is it? If this is the problem in nations like the United Kingdom, how are we going to sort it in other nations? Because this is going to balloon into a huge problem in society, because sometime these elements are going to come out into society and there is going to be a domino effect or a ripple effect. They are going to radicalize more people who are going to further radicalize more people, and this will attain critical mass, which becomes very dangerous to society. Charlotte and then Abhijit. Final question. Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, we have actually people going into prison on petty crimes like theft and coming out and committing terrorist offences. So the culture inside the prisons is really concerning, and the ability for those to radicalise both inside and outside We've had a review of our PREVENT, which is our preventative counter-terrorism strategy. That was found to be wanting, with a lack of expertise around Islamist extremism and a lack of strength in tackling Islamist extremism. So both our preventative end and our prison end have been found wanting. So it is a concerning moment this year for 100 tact offenders to be being released. So I do think that there is a lot to be addressed, both in prisons and outside. I think you're correct.
Abhijit, final 30 seconds. I have to wind up.
Thank you, Anand. If you remember, one of the first things that was done when Article 370 was amended in 2019 was everybody in Srinagar prison were actually taken to different parts of the country, to prisons in different parts of the country. That was done for a very specific reason, because what Srinagar prison had become was people would actually want to go in there specifically to radicalize and even more radicalize and even more radicalize. So it was a vicious cycle. We really need to start looking at these things. I think, the fact is Britain actually looks at it and tries to solve these problems. In India, we have certain legal methods like solitary confinement that help. But I think Britain also needs stricter legal frameworks for threats like this that are horns of dilemma. Chhod do, then they're a threat. Keep them in, they're a threat. I mean, how do you deal with people like that?
Well, that's a question that needs to be answered by our policymakers and our thinkers across nations. Thank you very much, Charlotte and Abhijit Iyer Mitra. With that, we call it a wrap on this edition of The Right Stand. Zaka ready with brass tacks. Good evening, this is Brass Tacks and Zaka Jacob. It's the third straight washout day in Parliament and it's on the issue of Manipur. Today, the Home Minister Amit Shah made a statement in the Lok Sabha saying that the government is ready for a discussion on Manipur. But the opposition is adamant that the Prime Minister must make a statement and that the debate should follow a statement by the Prime Minister. And without this precondition being fulfilled, there will be no debate. There is also disagreement over the rule under which this debate should take place. So that leads us to a basic question. 3 days of washout in Parliament. Who exactly is running away from a debate? Is it the opposition or is it the government?
Day 3 of the monsoon session and there is no end to the fireworks. Protests outside and inside Parliament and the sessions derailed in both houses. The clash reached the stage where Aam Aadmi Party MP Sanjay Singh was suspended for the remainder of the session for creating ruckus. This has boosted the